Hi, my name is Tanya White. I live in Moshav Azriel in Israel, and I am a teacher of Tanakh and Jewish thought, primarily at Matan Institute. Today I'm going to speak in memory of dear Jenny Alea Shalom about creating a culture of positive speech. Speech is a gift that primarily is given to human beings. When God creates the world, he does so through speech, and us being in his image means we're also given the power to make or break worlds, destroy or create reality through speech. The question of creating a culture of positive speech has to begin with recognizing the power of words and our responsibility in using them. Perhaps one of the best examples of this comes in the book of Bamidbar and the book of Numbers, where we trace the maturing process of a people who begin only knowing how to cry and moan and murmur and complain, to one that at the end, the second generation, learns how to speak, how to express grievances in a thoughtful way, in a deliberate way. For example, the daughters of Selofchad are a perfect example. The motif of speech features prominently throughout the book. Examples are the sin of the spies, the complaints of the people, the hitting instead of the speaking to the rock with Moshe, the opening of the earth's mouth, as it's described in the rebellion of Korach, Miriam's Lashon Hara, her evil speech, Bilam, blessing instead of cursing the people. If we take just one of those incidents, the incident of the spies, we find that it possesses a theme, a motif that runs through all the other incidents as well. The rabbis explain that the sin of the spies was essentially the sin of Lashon Hara, of evil speech, of bad speech. What do they mean by that statement? What theological or even sociological message underpins that statement? If we look throughout the narrative, there are words that repeat themselves, and the two words that keep repeating themselves in the narrative of the spies are the words good and bad. If you look at the text, you'll see it very clearly. Tov v'ra. When God sends the people, his aspiration is that they should spy out the land and they should see in the pasuk, the verse says, what the land is that they dwell in, whether it is good or bad. The command that God gives to the people is essentially, how are you going to look at the land? Are you going to be able to differentiate between bad and good? What are you going to see? Are you going to see the fruit, or are you going to see the giants? Are you going to see a land flowing with milk and honey, or are you going to see a land inhabited by your arch enemy, the Amalekites? What are your eyes going to see? What narrative are you going to tell? Only a generation that recognizes nuance, that understands that the land has both bad and good, both the giants and the Amalekites, and also has a land filled with fruit, milk and honey, and the potential for nation building. Very often, only that generation, by the way, that recognizes nuances and still chooses a narrative of good is able to go and inherit the land. In our culture, very often we fall prey to making impulsive judgments, especially today more than ever with social media. We subsume people or institutions or reality even into good and bad, them and us. And in this way, society has unfortunately become radically polarized. Maybe we can look at Sefer Bamidbar, the first example of nation building, as a manifesto to how we can, or an antidote, so to speak, to this culture that we've created, and make instead a positive speech culture. As our rabbis intuited many centuries ago, nation building begins with a positive outlook as expressed in positive speech. This today must be at the top of a culture agenda and is one of the most urgent lessons for all of us in every culture, in every society, and as part of every nation to adopt.